Hey, what is up guys? So now that we have that new ban list, we can kind of look forward to playing a lot of different decks safely, knowing that they're not going to be hit, unless we have one of those adjusted ban lists again. But anyways, I want to talk mainly about ABC today and actually show you guys a small little gameplay, but anyways, this is one of the most popular decks. Not only is it relatively easy to play, but it also is very easy to run as far as like how complex the deck is, because it's not very complex. It's very linear and straightforward. Make ABC and CDI turn 1. Now there's a lot of different builds. I'll give you guys a deck profile of this, but this is going to be one of the most popular decks simply because it's really easy to play, and I would say it's relatively budget friendly. I don't know exactly what the price of some of the other cards will be because we don't have them out yet. But I'll give you guys a build. You guys can go ahead and watch the replay and just watch how good this deck is, just in general. And this is super consistent. This guy didn't even have Transmodify. This guy didn't have the Pot of Desires in his deck. But overall, the main concept is to just be able to go for a turn 1 Cyber Dragon Infinity, and in addition to that, have a ABC Dragon. And that's really simple for the deck to do. Not even having Gigant X. Like, these two cards alone pretty much stop majority of decks in their track. A lot of decks, they don't have the option to, rebuttal with, three answers to answer your field, because that's what it really takes, because ABC pretty much answers 1, CDI obviously answers 1 as well, and then after that you have an insane follow-up. Just watch what this guy does and you guys will see. He's just basically equipping a bunch of stuff, dumping a bunch of cards in the graveyard, and then he can make this card over here, which is the Bujin Tsukiyomi over here. So this card, he's able to dump all of the light monsters in his graveyard. So that just fills up the graveyard for more targets for ABC, and then he's able to draw 2 extra cards. And I believe he drew Regeki and the Bottomless. So it sets you up for traps too. This card is just super, super excellent for not only being able to cycle through your cards, but it dumps 2 cards in the graveyard. And if they're 2 lights, that's almost an ABC Buster Dragon right there. And you can see most decks at this point will lose. And if you are interested in playing competitive, this is the most popular deck right now, simply because it wins like turn 1. And if you look at this deck, you look at Metal Foes, and you look at other things, the DDDs, sometimes those definitely can win turn 1. But the thing is that I think majority of players will like this deck simply because it's a lot easier. And if you guys go online in rank section, you can watch and see what people are playing. And majority of the time, it is this deck. Now, I did promise you guys a deck profile, so I'll actually show you guys a deck profile real quick. And there's a lot of different builds of ABC. I personally think Pot of Desires is an excellent card, or Pot of Cupidity, in the deck, but he's not playing it. Like, you don't really technically need it. I think Torrential Tribute definitely can be swapped out. I just wanted to show you guys the build that this guy sent in from the replay. But I just wanted to talk about how strong this deck is, especially when you're mixing in Transmodify and things like this, which not only let you put the card in the graveyard, but it gets you Galaxy Soldier. Again, the goal of this deck is to make these 2 cards turn 1. This one and this one. Well, I mean, you'll make this one and then you'll make this one after. Again, most decks can't compete with that, unless, of course, you have Dark Hole. I know ABC doesn't negate anything, but for the most part, it really is difficult for a lot of decks to deal with double negations. And like this one, I know it gets rid of 1 card on the field. But this one gets rid of, well, can stop pretty much anything. A lot of people have been using this in the OCG. I know we only have 1 Book of Moon, because I want to prepare you guys for, like, the next format, essentially, because this is, again, going to be one of the more popular decks. Another card I haven't seen that many people play, but this guy was playing, so I just want to show you guys other builds, is Ties of the Brethren. So you pay 2k life points, and you select a level 4 lower monster you control. You special summon from your deck 2 monsters with the same type, attribute, and level, but with different names. So at that point, you're able to just bust out ABC, and then also you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, or conduct your battle phase. This is definitely okay turn 1. The only problem is that you can't special summon other monsters. So at this point, your play would be like summon triple monsters. Hopefully you have back row, pass. And then from there, obviously, next turn you'll have a really good play, and you should be able to finish off your opponent. But a lot of builds haven't been running this, but I, again, just want to show you other options that you guys might want to try out. Now, as far as this deck goes, it's very, very consistent. As far as playing against what's going to be meta, I mean, a lot of people are still interested in playing Cosmos. Magic Spectres will probably still see a little bit of play, or just Pendulum decks in general will probably still see some play. We'll have to wait and see what else that we get in the game. But as far as DDDs go, like, there are a lot of different popular decks in this game coming out very soon, because this is honestly going to be a huge set. Invasion of Venom is going to be crazy as far as, like, a lot of the cards that we're getting. But you have to be prepared, and I want to prepare you guys for that. So a few cards that you guys can get ready to run that I can recommend for you guys to, just, at least have some of these in your side deck or even your main deck. Swords is also good, Concealing Light, just to put everything face down, and then that way you don't have to deal with their effects, so you can kind of get rid of them through that aspect. Now, obviously, you're going to be forcing some negations, or you can force them to use effects immediately. But then, obviously, you have to have a follow-up. So, like, what kind of sucks with this, next format for certain decks? Not every deck is going to have this problem, but like, what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to deal with the board. Whether you're playing like, you're going to have to like use something. They're obviously going to negate, like, Swords of Concealing Light or Darkhold Regeki. You have to have something else. You have to have 2 cards to get rid of, their board, and then you have to follow up with something stunning, because you need to be able to stop them next turn, and more than likely they've gotten a bunch of these cards in the graveyard, so next turn you have to deal with another ABC Buster Dragon, which more than likely is going to be difficult, because you've probably used 2, maybe 3 cards, and especially if you're trying to set up a board already, after you've already used 3 cards, you're going to have 3 cards, and this card, it's really good because it's, activated during either player's turn. And so a lot of decks, again, they will fold to it. Another excellent card that I can recommend you guys, OCG has been loving this card forever, which is Forbidden Chalice. Now again, you're using 3 cards out of your hand, and they can already establish a board where they can, follow up next turn relatively quick. So you need to make sure you have something to stop them from doing something else. Like, it requires almost like a godly hand, so to speak, in order to deal with this board. And that's why this deck is so successful. Again, I know that's not every single deck that is going to have a problem, but a lot of different, anti-meta rogue decks will definitely have a problem against this deck. But in addition to that, as far as this build goes, Cupidity is really, really good in this deck. I understand there's been a lot of people arguing about Pot of Cupidity being good. I actually made a video of this, so if you guys haven't seen the video of arguing about Pot of Cupidity being like a good card or a meta card or it goes in everything, I actually made a video talking about just this card in general. So I'll link that down below in the description box, or I'll add an annotation up if you want to click on it to watch the video talking about this card in general. Now, I feel like a lot of rogue decks can definitely make good use of this card because it puts the player in a situation, if they're playing CDI, do they negate this? Like, do they use Cyber Dragon Infinity's effect to negate this? And if they don't, then there's a possibility that they can draw into the cards to obviously deal with the board. But if they, negate this, what if there's another card that can deal with the board? So it puts the player in a situation where it's almost a lose-lose, because if you let it go through, they're obviously going to get cards. But if you don't negate it, then they're going to get cards. So like I said, it's really good just to have this card in general. That's why I recommend it. If you guys have seen a lot of the OCG builds, at first there was less people playing Pot of Cupidity, or Desires, sorry, I know a TCG name. There were a lot less people playing the Pot of Desires, but then now if you guys go look at the list, and I'll give you guys some more updated lists. We actually talked about the top decks recently. If you guys haven't seen that video, again, I'll link that down below. You can watch different deck profiles of all the top decks. And like I said, it's DDDs, there's Metal Foes, and there's also, of course, the ABC. Again, ABC is probably going to be the more popular one. It's easy to play, and it's relatively straightforward. As far as how expensive the deck is, I don't think there's that many cards that are super expensive. Obviously, this card's expensive, and then we'll have to wait and see how this card decides to price itself later on, once we, obviously get the cards to actually run this deck. Now, Transmodify has been going up in price, and Galaxy Soldier obviously went up in price, and apparently it was supposed to get reprinted, but whatever. I don't think it's super expensive to the point where we're looking at a $500 to $700 deck, but I still think that it's going to be one of the more popular decks. I know we're getting a DDD starter / structure deck relatively soon. And then I don't know exactly if they've revealed the full list on that. I'll update you guys on that as well. But I just want to, again, prepare you guys for this deck, because it's going to be one of those decks where some people are just going to be like, this deck is broken, I quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, like I said, in order to combat some of these things, excellent cards can be Chalice. Obviously, Regeki and Darkhold force them to, negate certain things. But I want to know if there's any other cards that you guys have really good suggestions to combat this deck, because this is a really dirty deck to run into, and it can be problematic for a lot of different decks to actually deal with. So I think that overall, your best options are probably going to be Chalice, because you do something that's going to destroy him, he's going to negate, and then you chain Chalice, and then he's more likely going to get rid of your monster. But at the end of the day, you got rid of Cyberdragon Infinity, although the ABC, you know, it has that reoccurring ability where it's like, oh, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and get back the other 3 monsters. And then on top of that, like, Union Hanger is so insane that you can just, you know, add one machine light type, or when one of them is normal or special, you get to equip, like you saw in the replay. I'm going to play the replay like real quick once again, to like show you guys just again how like fast this deck is and how consistent it is to get you guys prepared for one of the best decks in the upcoming format. Because now we have the ban list, we know this deck is looking really strong. And I don't know about spirals. We'll have to wait and see what they get, because at the moment, also there's the Winter Witches. But look how strong this is turn 1. Like, this is insane. You have another search after this. You have this, which is going to give you another like card to like attach with because you're special summoning. Because look, during the end phase, he's going to go ahead and get out all 3 of those monsters. And look, he's got 5 monsters on board, and he's got this. Then he's just going to go ahead and equip once again, adding more fuel to the fire, and then he draws into this. And again, the deck is just like one of the more powerful things that I've seen in a long time. It's going to be a nasty deck to run into turn 1. It's like one of those turn 1 decks where it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm playing against this turn 1. I don't know if you guys remember like the Dino Rabbit format, but dang, like the turn 1 when they go like Lagia set 2, and you just be like, oh, I can't. Most decks couldn't deal with it. And this is like, I want to say like it's not the same deck, but at its core, like you have to be able to combat it fast. Like you need to be able to finish this deck off. The problem is, like, back in the day when we had the Dino Rabbit, for those of you guys that remember this, it's sometimes the next turn was like summon Tour Guide, activate, and you're just like, oh my gosh, Levier, get back, Rabbit. And it would just be one of those things where it's just like, you have to be able to be very aggressive. So I highly recommend you guys to start side decking, like, you know, those Chalices, Book of Moons, even Swords of Concealing Light, just to put everything face down to try to deal with their board much easier, because again, you're going to force those negations out much faster. But anyways, hopefully this helps you guys out, and if you guys have any suggestions for other cards that can really combat this deck, let me know in the comment section below so we can kind of help each other out combat this deck. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys give that like button a titty slap. I'm signing out.